Hello, this is a message to readers, movie watchers, TV show watchers. As a writer, as a creator of stories, it is an ongoing problem that I see happening quite often. And the problem is this. People who watch something or read something cannot separate the outside view from the inside view. And what I mean by this, well, let me actually give you an example. Me and a friend of mine were watching a TV show. Now, he had seen this TV show before. I was watching it basically kind of for the second time. I had seen the show before, but I kind of saw a slightly different version of the show than the one we were watching. And so I had a little bit of knowledge of what was going on. But we're sitting there watching it, and this one character is super popular, super famous. Everybody is cheering this character's name. There's this huge fighting tournament going on. And the main characters of the show are just doing some of the most incredible things that, to the audience, does not seem possible. Now, from the outside perspective, having seen all the previous episodes, we, the viewers, know that what the main characters are doing is real. That the moves they are pulling off, the fact they are flying in the air, throwing balls of energy, are real. However, my friend turned to me and he said, "How are these people thinking this is fake? Why are they such a big fan of this one guy?" Because the one guy was sitting there telling everybody that it's fake. And they were all cheering his name. And my friend, who was a huge fan of this franchise, could not understand why they believed him, why they followed this guy. And I told him, I said, well, if you look at it from the inside perspective, this guy is telling the crowd it's fake. And the crowd is buying it because he's exposing how it can possibly be done. Even though we, the viewer from the outside, know that what they're doing is real, audience members that are sitting there watching it can't believe their eyes. So the second somebody offers a perspective of how it can be faked, they're going to believe it. The same happens in real life. And me and my buddy got into a huge argument over this. And it's like, look, you're not looking at it from the inside. You're not looking at it as if you were sitting in those stands. And I explained to him, for years, people swore up and down that the wrestling on TV was real. That these people really were fighting each other. And everybody believed it for a very long time. Until finally, somebody came out eventually and said, no, we are choreographed stunt fighters. Everything is choreographed. Every punch is pulled. Nothing you see is causing actual physical harm. At least not on purpose. And yes, people can get hurt. But that's the life of being a stunt performer. And my buddy's like, well, I always knew wrestling was fake. It's like, yeah, but you only knew that because someone actually came out and said, it is fake. It's choreographed. In the show we were watching, that's what this popular guy was doing. And he was building his popularity off of the fact of exposing this quote-unquote truth to the audience. So the audience believed it. And this seems to happen a lot with stories that get told, and it's not just my friend. I've witnessed other people that did it. I pointed out in a previous video that Nostalgia Critic was responsible of this behavior when he watched Jurassic Park Lost World. Because in that movie, Jeff Goldblum says 3 people died. And he's like, no, 5 people died. And we, the audience members, know that 5 people might have died. And I'll explain what I mean by might have here in a second. But Jeff Goldblum did not know. Nobody knew what happened to Nedry. And here's another thing, too. As far as I can remember, I don't actually remember them saying what the fate of the guy at the beginning was. All the security guards around the cage were zapping that velociraptor. If that velociraptor had him by the leg, yes, granted, that guy might have lost his leg. There have been people out there in the world who have been attacked by wild animals. There are men who are in the ocean, surfers, who are attacked by sharks, and they managed to survive. If they got that guy out and free, we know they didn't shoot the velociraptor like they were being ordered to, but they were tasing the crap out of it. So that guy might have survived, but very bad condition. He probably lost his leg. I don't actually recall them saying there was a death at that time throughout the entire first movie. I remember them saying that there was an incident at the park, but they never actually confirmed if that worker died. And that's a thing a lot of people will do. They assume things and they build off of that assumption because they are only looking at it from the outside perspective. Star Wars is currently being ruined because everybody is too concerned with the outside perspective of Star Wars, but you're not looking at it from the inside perspective. Mark Hamill is going out there and defending the fans, and granted, yes, he played Luke Skywalker. And in The Last Jedi, we are kind of told through his character that he lost everything. Basically, probably his first student, his own family member, was turning to the dark side. It was a complete repeat of what kind of happened with his father. And he was just destroyed when he lost everything. Now, I don't understand this. Why is it that people watch Avengers Endgame and are completely fine with the way Thor became, but they watch Last Jedi and say, oh, well, they mistreated Luke? Seriously? Yes, they both suffered. They basically both suffered the same thing. Thor lost most of his people. Some of them got away. That was confirmed. Luke lost every student, basically, except for Ben Solo. And Ben turned to the dark side. Not one of his students was left alive. My friend would ask me, well, then why didn't Luke start a new school? Because he knew he did something wrong. And he went and searched to find out more about the Jedi, more about the Force. That is all explained in the first two sequel movies. But nobody looks at it that way. They will just want to say, oh, I don't like how Mark Hamill's character was portrayed. Or all this other stuff is going on with social media, so I'm going to hate the movie. Here's a good example. How it's not just the outside of a movie or TV show that is focused on. It's more the politics, too, of the movies or TV shows are being focused on rather than the story. Solo, a Star Wars story. That was going through a lot of different problems, granted. They kept switching directors. And then at some point, I guess, one of the directors or one of the people in charge of making it said that Lando was a pansexual. Now, at first, I had no real idea what that was. I actually had to look it up. And after looking it up and doing a little bit of research, just a very little bit of research, basically, the people were getting upset about the relationship between Lando and the robot. But you know what? Here's the thing. As soon as I knew that, I accepted it. Why? Because we have people out there in the world today that care more about their car or some electronic device that they own than other people's lives. They will let a child starve, but God help you if you get a scratch on their car. Is that right? I mean, I'm not like that, so I know there are people in the world like that out there. So, yeah, would I buy that Lando's that kind of person? Probably, especially once we learn what is so special. And actually, after watching the movie a couple times, I came to realize it was more the robot was constantly thinking he was into her. And that's the thing about Star Wars droids. They've always had personalities. They've always had different personalities. No real two droids ever acted alike. I mean, except maybe the battle droids from the Trade Federation. But, I mean, again, this is an idea where people are looking at things from the outside rather than the inside. The reason Lando cared about his robot so much was because of every robot, every droid in that galaxy, she had the most complete star charts in her memory. She had some of the best navigational knowledge. So he could use her to pilot any ship. It didn't have to be the Falcon. She could go from ship to ship with him. And yes, he was terrified when she was destroyed. Spoilers. When she was injured or hurt. I don't really know how you want to call it. But essentially she was dying. He was at risk of losing that valuable knowledge. Something he really cared about. Yes, he cared about the robot too, but probably not as much as complete star charts that she had stored in her memory. And the fact that they fuse her with the ship actually makes some of the original stuff from the original trilogy make sense. Like when Solo tells C-3PO, no, he needs him to talk to the Falcon, and keeps referring to the Falcon as a she. I mean, granted, that's another thing in real life where people often refer to cars and machines as female. So, because people didn't look at it from a character's point of view, from the inside point of view, and just focused on the outside, they wanted to naysay. They wanted to criticize. And honestly, I'm surprised that this was even an issue with Solo. Because, I mean, does it really matter? I mean, why does it matter? Why is everyone so hung up on a character's sexuality? Shouldn't the story matter more than a minor detail? Yes, granted, a minor detail can flesh out the world. But if it's not needed, or if it's something that is super easy to figure out, why focus on it? When Rise of Skywalker was coming out and the Emperor was announced to be alive, everyone that was criticizing the film before it even came out was saying, oh, there's no way Palpatine could be alive. No way at all. I have a video that tells you exactly how he could still be alive, with plenty of evidence from the original movies to back it up. A lot of people will sit there and, like CinemaSins says that the books don't matter. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. A lot of the information that people were basing what the sequel trilogy should have been comes from books, comes from video games, but mostly books, comics, novels. And me and my buddy, we argue about Star Wars quite a bit. And one thing that he was upset with when Palpatine was announced to be alive is that, aside from it was impossible, which I proved him wrong, was that Disney was messing it up. Disney did this. It was all Disney's fault. And I looked at my friend and I said, excuse me, what? He's like, yeah, well, they are bringing Palpatine back just to please the audience, but it's not going to please the audience. I'm like, and you think this is Disney's fault because Disney's doing that? He's like, yeah. And I said, weren't you the one telling me to watch the Clone Wars because it's some of the best stuff in Star Wars? It is. And I'm like, okay, I very distinctly recall seeing Darth Maul. This is before Solo. Before Solo ever came out, I knew Darth Maul was alive. I had watched some of the Clone Wars series, and I told him that after the fact. He's like, yeah, well, I don't know, I have to rewatch that. I was like, yeah, it's Darth Maul. And you know what? He was cut in half. He was killed off by George Lucas. And at the time that Clone Wars came out, George Lucas was still running his company. He had not sold Star Wars to Disney yet. And he was perfectly fine with them bringing back Darth Maul. So I don't get why everyone was so upset over Palpatine returning. I mean, he was clearly burned and he was strong in the Force. He freaking hid himself from the Jedis, sitting in a meeting with the Jedis, concealing his dark side powers so they couldn't sense him when he's right in front of their face. But people want to look at The Last Jedi and go, well, Luke would have sensed him if he was still alive at the Death Star. Not if he didn't want him to. I mean, we know Palpatine can do that. We know he has that trick. Again, this is part of, you gotta look from the inside. What is a character capable of? What has a character done? Is this possible? And right now, any writers that watch this, I want you to raise your hand. Do you seriously go and explain every single tiny detail to your audience? Or do you trust that your audience should be capable of figuring out what's plainly obvious to most people? Going back to that argument I had with that show, I told my friend, I said, we have magic street performers like Chris Angel. I showed him a video of Chris Angel. I said, now, this stuff is done on the Las Vegas Strip, right in front of real people. And those real people will not be able to explain how he's pulling these magic tricks off. That's the point of a good magician. Do they know it's a trick? Yes. Do they believe he's doing real magic? Probably not. Because it's common knowledge that if it's a magic trick, there's some way to accomplish that goal. That person is not really a wizard. It's a trick. He had to pull it off somehow. I understand. I'm not saying that you should not explain some things, but I'm saying you probably don't explain every teeny tiny detail, because, like, some of it should just be obvious to the reader, you know, like how an elevator works. You don't explain how the gears turn and can lower the elevator or raise the elevator. You just probably say they entered the elevator and pushed this button and the doors slid shut and the elevator started rising. But you get the point. So please, readers, watchers, gamers, if you don't understand something, really take another look at what your story is and try to look at it from an inside point of view. Most of the time, the answer might be right there in front of you. It might take a little bit of thinking, but it might be right in front of you too. See, this is why we as writers struggle sometimes with showing versus telling. Because if we just show you something, sometimes even showing it to you, you still don't get it. Like I said, with The Last Jedi, Luke lost pretty much everything. His whole life, his entire thing that he had worked so hard to build was destroyed by one of his own, by someone he probably trusted, and it was just gone. Yes, it was gone because of kind of a misunderstanding, but I think at the same time, Luke saw the writing on the wall. He knew that even left unchecked, he was going to lose Kylo Ren or Ben Solo to the dark side. There was no stopping it unless he killed him. And the bit where people go, oh, well, Luke would never do that. Luke would never kill him. Well, he didn't kill him. That was the point of those flashbacks. He stopped himself. And then they try to sit there and say, oh, well, Luke would never go that far. Really? Because he's gone that far before. He went that far when the Emperor was taunting him. He went that far when he was fighting Vader. Just because he got older doesn't mean he won't go that far again. And he went as far as he normally goes. The Emperor taunted him, begged him, pleaded with him to try to take his lightsaber. And Luke was doing a really good job of saying no. But eventually he caved into that peer pressure and he took the lightsaber. True, Vader was right there and stopped it. But still, Luke took the lightsaber. Then during the fight with Darth Vader, again, Luke lost his cool. Luke went on the offensive instead of the defensive and actually got Vader on the ground and cut off Vader's hand. He had Vader at saber point, and he stopped himself. He pulled out the lightsaber and considered striking Ben Solo down right then and there to save what was probably hundreds or thousands of lives that were going to be lost, because he felt it was his responsibility to do it. He went as far as turning the lightsaber on, but then he thought about it and he stopped himself and he said, "No, I will not go that far." That is extremely in line with what we know of his character. He thinks about it. He even pulls himself to the edge and peers over, but he doesn't cross the line. And he didn't cross that line. If he had actually swung and tried to kill Kylo Ren, like Kylo Ren thought he was doing, but when we actually get the full true story, it was just a kind of a misunderstanding, a little bit. Again, yes, he was going to that line. He was peeking over that line, but he was not going to cross over that line. He stopped himself from doing that. Again, if you look at something from the inside perspective, you will see that, okay, yeah, this is how it's explained. Just from the outside perspective, it may not make sense. Now, I've been sitting here defending The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I honestly do really like The Rise of Skywalker. I think it's highly misunderstood, even though I have one or two big major flaws with the movie. As for Last Jedi, I've come to appreciate it a lot more. And yes, I still have many problems with it, but not nearly as many as I did before. Honestly, only problems I really have with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker is the handling of Finn. Like many, I do believe Finn's character was highly mistreated after The Force Awakens. But that's another video for another time. So just please, try to look at things from inside. Put yourself in the shoes of people in that world. If you are in that world, what would you know? What is possible that you would know about? Going back to Jurassic Park again. Jeff Goldblum, his character, had absolutely no idea. In fact, none of the characters, probably not one character from the first movie, knew what happened to Nedry, because he was all alone when he died. He instituted a virus or a shutdown program to shut the park down. As far as everybody else was probably concerned, after Hammond got back to the shore, they looked at it and said, "Oh, he's a traitor. He stole property probably and was selling it to the rival companies. We can't find him because he probably already made the sale and got the money. He's gone. He's disappeared. He's missing. No one's probably thinking he's dead." And it's not like he had family that we ever heard about that was going to be concerned. He was basically a greedy pig. You can get that from the scenes early on in the movie when he's meeting with that guy, getting the shaving device to put the embryos in. He has a bunch of food. His workstation is a mess. The guy is a walking cliche. So why does nobody know what happened to him? Because he had no one who cared about him. He was there for the money. He sold out for money. And as far as everyone was concerned, he disappeared. But I'm just rambling on. And I'm just going over things I already said. So, again, please help us be good storytellers. If you find a problem that you can look from the inside and you can't find a solution, feel free to go online and ask. Either ask other readers, "Hey, did you understand this?" Or ask other movie watchers, "Did you understand this?" Disney is failing with Star Wars so bad because they just want to throw an answer out there and not put any thought into what is possible. Me as a storyteller, I've watched the sequel trilogy a few times, and I've come up with my own fan theories that would be perfect stories that would fill in any gaps from the movies, that would perfectly make the Star Wars sequel trilogy work. But then, right after I come up with something, someone from Disney or someone who worked on one of the films comes out and says something and just kind of destroys any chance of, well, that can't be fixed now. They went and opened their mouths, so no, that's ruined. Like Palpatine coming back. I know, but I just want to get this out. I've been holding a lot of this in. But Palpatine coming back. When I first heard about that, I was like, I don't know. I have to see the movie. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I was excited because, it's Palpatine. And me and my buddy were arguing before we ever saw the movie. He's like, oh, well, that's stupid. They're bringing Palpatine back. I'm like, no, it's actually kind of brilliant. Because if they had stayed with Snoke, they have to make Snoke somebody really relevant. Basically, they had to make him Darth Plagueis, or it wasn't going to work. Because he's just some new bad guy showing up for the last section of the series. Who are you? Nobody. That's like if Voldemort died at the end of Goblet of Fire, and for the last few movies, we just had some new person we never knew before just randomly show up and take over the Death Eaters. Not even anyone like Snape or Bellatrix, but just somebody completely new and random. Harry Potter would have tanked so hard. Nobody would have liked that. Or even if Voldemort died at the end of Order of the Phoenix, and for Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, it was just somebody new. Nobody would have liked that. Nobody would have cared. So I finally went and saw Rise of Skywalker. I heard all the leaks. I heard all the spoilers. I didn't care. I was so done. With all the hatred that Star Wars was getting for the dumbest reasons, and people on both sides attacking each other. First off, if you are a fan of a series, how can you call yourself a fan if you attack the very people who make it? You may not like one or two people that are involved, but there are a lot more people who make these movies, who make TV shows, than just one person. Rian Johnson did not play every character. If he did, he's very good at applying his own makeup. Other people were involved with making that. Other people were involved with bringing that story to life. And just because you don't like a character, why would you think that that character is a representation of the actual person? They are called actors. Do you think Robert Englund puts on a fedora and a Christmas sweater and goes around into people's houses and stabs them with a finger knife glove outside the movie? Do you think that Keanu Reeves goes around shooting bad guys in real life? When The Last of Us 2 came out. Now, first off, I am a fan of The Last of Us. Like I said, this is going to be a writer's rant. I've wanted to do this for some time now. And the more and more I hear about all the stuff going on, the more and more I've got to say. But The Last of Us 2, I can't afford to go buy it. Even if I could, there are other games I would rather go buy. I don't want to play The Last of Us 2. I was okay with the first one, but after hearing all the bad stuff about 2, I'm not interested. And I've heard both sides, the good and the bad. But the bad stuff that I've heard, it's just outweighs the good. And I'm not going to waste my money. That's the thing. If you don't like something, no one is making you go out and get it. I don't like what they did with The Last of Us 2. If I really want to know what goes on with that story, I could just watch someone play it on YouTube. I still see what happens. I can say, okay, yeah, glad I didn't waste money to go buy it, but at least I know what happens. And the thing is, when Last of Us 2 came out, people went on Twitter and they attacked the voice actress, claiming that she killed their favorite character. The voice actress didn't do anything. The people who made the game, the guy who wrote the game, he is the one who decided to kill that character. The voice actress did not go into the game with a gun and shoot him in the head. I have watched the clip quite a few times from different people playing Last of Us 2, and I have never seen the voice actress suddenly appear in the game, walk up to the character, and shoot him. So why can't people separate real life from fiction? It's kind of a double-edged sword. They can't separate real life from fiction how do I say this? Whenever it suits them, I guess. But then, it's like those moments when real life is right there in your face, they just want to completely ignore. Now, I have no interest in watching the movie I'm about to talk about. I never will. I've never really watched these movies. And this movie is not the only one of its kind. And right now I'm moving on to the topic of Netflix's Cuties. I watched a trailer for it, and that's about as much as of it I want to see. But, I mean, everybody's flipping out about this movie, calling Netflix pedophiles. You know what? I've seen this crap on Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, Jerry Springer, any other daytime talk show, probably in several other TV shows where you have teenage girls, 12, 13-year-old girls, who just are dressed extremely slutty. And every time it's on one of those daytime talk shows, little girl is like, my parents can't control me. Well, when you can't control your kids, this is what happens. From what I saw of that trailer to that movie, that mother was trying to control her child. Apparently, the other children have parents that can't control them. And this is what happens. But you know what? It wasn't even about that. You know what I saw when I saw the trailer? I saw another freaking movie about little kids who want to win a dance-off competition. I've lived in a city. Right now, I currently live in a small town. And yeah, I see little kids dressing like that. I won't let my child dress like that, but I've seen other kids dress like that. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And you know what the sad fact is? Parents let their kids dress like that. Parents let their kids go out like that. Well, if I don't get them those clothes, they'll just get it somehow. Yeah, because they'll go steal it from the stores. Because you're not teaching them right from wrong. I mean, they recently, here in America, changed the smoking age from 18 to 21. Me and at least 4 other people all asked the clerk, do you really think this is going to stop kids from smoking? Nope. That is what the clerk said every time. Nope. Because you know what? They don't normally go in themselves and get it. They give people money to go get it for them. If they have a job, if they go to a school, they're getting older kids or older people to go out and get it for them. They get family members to go out and get it for them. So honestly, in my opinion, everybody who sat there wasted time talking and deciding on changing the age from 18 to 21, wasted their time. And I cannot believe that nobody ever came up with how, if we can't stop teenagers from drinking alcohol, how are we going to stop them from getting cigarettes, getting vape? Again, I'm so sorry that this is such a long video of me just ranting. But like I said, I watch a lot of news, and I just want to get this all out there. I know this started off as sort of a writing advice thing, but why cancel Netflix? First off, from what I understand, the film in question isn't even from America. Yet American audiences are getting upset about it. You know Netflix is in other countries, right? You know they're online, which means they can be worldwide. And maybe that kind of entertainment is acceptable over in other countries. Not every country has the same laws and regulations that America has. I think it was made in like France, or it has a French director. Again, I have not looked that deeply into this. Channels I watch they're the ones who have looked more deeper into this information, and then they reported on it, so I'm just paraphrasing what I've heard reported. Go to the Quartering or Clownfish TV if you want to hear more in detailed stuff about this. But, I mean, look at it like this. It has a French director. And it was made, I guess, in Africa, I think, or something like that. Somewhere in Africa. I don't know what the laws are there, but from what I saw in the trailer, it just looked like a dance-off competition type movie. I didn't actually see little kids getting undressed and stuff on the trailer I saw. I just saw a lot of the times them dancing and wearing very inappropriate clothes. But you know what? Kids today, everywhere in the U.S., wear inappropriate clothing. They do inappropriate things. So maybe look a little closer to home. I mean, one thing that is really ruining stories nowadays, something I myself refuse to do, is follow some sort of checklist. I've heard a lot of reviewers, a lot of critics, a lot of people on YouTube talk about some sort of checklist. Oh, does it meet this requirement? Does it meet this requirement? Does it have this representation, that representation? I don't do that. I tell you a story. I get the story out there. That's my job as a writer, to tell you the most interesting and entertaining story that I can possibly do. I was on Twitter, and I'm very active in the writing community. I'm not super active, but I'm active. I go on there every day, and I try to post comments on people's, posts, tweets, whatever you want to call it. And I try to post one of my own or two of my own throughout the day. And I remember one time I got into this huge debate back when I first was getting into Twitter for my writing, because somebody asked why there was not more LGBTQ representation in fantasy. Now, actually what I replied with was this: why would a writer write about something if they, A, are not that way? If I'm not a member of that community, why would I write about it? I don't know what those people are thinking. I clearly do not have the same mindset they have. Being a single straight male, I do not think that way, so why would I write about it? And then also, you're trying to force your views, if you are part of that community, onto people who are not in that community. It's like the people that come around to your door to talk about religion. They are trying to push their religion onto you by interrupting you at your home. So telling a writer that they have to put that in a story, no, not if I'm not a part of that community. I'm not going to write about something I'm not familiar with. And the final thing I said too was, why does it matter? If you have a knight who is gay for his fellow knight, and the king sends these two knights down the road to go slay this dragon in a cave, the only reason it would matter is if those knights are going to survive. But guess what? No. Instead, the knights enter the cave and the dragon devours them. What did it matter who they were sleeping with? Why does their backstory matter? They're fictional characters that existed to die. I can tell you as a writer, unless I'm trying to pad the read time, I don't give you a lot of details of characters who are only there to die. I don't dive in to a full explanation of their lifespan from the time they were born to the time that they just got eaten. My books would be like thousands and thousands of pages long. I read a book once where the first 10 pages or so of the first chapter was this elf who was walking down this dark road, and it was explaining the forest, the dirt, the atmosphere, her feelings, everything she was carrying, every little leaf and branch. I was so bored, I didn't even finish the book. I got 10 pages in, I was still like, oh my god, she's still walking on this road. We haven't even switched to any other characters. We haven't even gone and done anything of importance. She hasn't really talked about in her mind anything that's happened, putting us in any different situation. She's still walking through the forest, talking, and the writer is still telling me what she's thinking about the forest she's walking through. I'm like, are you kidding? She's walking through a forest. It's creepy. You can dive into it a little bit, a page, maybe two, but then afterwards, move on. Unless this forest is somehow pivotal to the entire world. In fact, since it was a pretty short book, I'm like, well, is this forest going to be like the only thing she's going to do? Is she never going to leave this forest? Is this the entire point of this book? If so, I'm really not interested in the book. So if a character is meant to die, if a guard is sent into a cave to kill a dragon, the reader really probably isn't going to care what their sexual preference was. They want to see those knights enter the cave, fight valiantly, and then get their heads chomped off by the dragon. But again, to answer that person's question, most writers probably maybe aren't part of the LGBTQ community, so they don't think that way. And then I love the comments that I got after the fact. After I made these points, they were like, oh, so you're saying we don't matter. It's like, no, I never said that. I said that people don't think the way you do. They have a different mindset. They have a different type of story they want to tell. They're not going to focus on a character's sexuality. And I don't know what's become of the world today, but that seems to be a lot of people's concern. Cartoons, I mean, here people are, maybe not you specifically, but here people are complaining about cuties on Netflix, yet they want to talk about She-Ra and which characters are gay on that cartoon. Or Thelma from Scooby-Doo, a show that is meant for my 5-year-old, and they want to say Thelma's gay. I don't want my 5-year-old child, exposed to sexuality at her age. I'm sorry, but that does not belong in a children's cartoon. And these people who are complaining about that Cuties movie are the same people who want to know if Thelma is gay in Scooby-Doo. Why is it completely reversed, backwards? Clownfish TV harps on that whole She-Ra angle quite a bit if you ever want to check out their videos. And I completely agree. Why are we so concerned with putting this crap in cartoons for kids? Why is that more important than telling a good story? You know, when He-Man and She-Ra first came out, I was a big fan. I was also a big fan of Masters of the Universe. I had He-Man toys when I never heard about any gay undertones in He-Man until I was like 18. Years and years and years after the He-Man cartoon had been off the air, and I had lost or broken most of the toys. Then I finally hear about, oh, I guess it was really gay and it was for homosexuals. It's like, no, it was a kid's cartoon meant for kids. And I never saw any of that. I was not exposed to that. I saw it for what it was. And I don't know why people want to go and ruin these cartoons and movies. Or if somebody puts something out, they're like, oh, well, you should, like here, people are, again, going back to Cuties on Netflix. People are like, well, you got to cancel Netflix because that movie's wrong. Well, how do you know that movie's wrong? Did you watch the movie? So that must mean you're into that. You looked for it. You watched the movie to see if it was in there, which means you subscribed to Netflix, so therefore Netflix got your money. Are we starting to see the logic here? Are we starting to see the problem? It's like a strip club. I knew somebody that wanted to open a strip club in the town I live in. And they wanted to hire college girls to work at the strip club. And someone said, there is no way college girls will go and work at that strip club. I said, well, how do you know? And the person told me, because they don't want to be recognized as a stripper in town. I said, well, the only way that someone's going to know she's a stripper at the strip club is either A, she goes around and tells everybody, or B, they've been inside the strip club, which means they gave the strip club money to get in, or they went in and supported the business, made it busier. I mean, people can boycott it, but I mean, the girl's still going to go in there to go work, and she can dress up so she's not recognizable. But I'm getting too long for this video, so I'm going to cut this off here. Maybe I'll come back and I'll do another rant like this, depending on how this does. But if you liked anything I've talked about, or if you agree, or even if you don't disagree, it's completely up to you. I mean, at this point, I just, like I said, I had to get the stuff off my chest. And I wanted to start with that whole inside-outside perspective thing and just see where it went. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you share this video and help me get some views. Please, I ask you nicely, subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. It would really mean a lot to my daughter. It would help us out a lot. My book is on Amazon. If you'd like to check out a really good story that everybody has loved so far, every time someone picks it up, they say, I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. It was really good. Book 4 will be coming out here in November. I'll probably do a special video for my birthday, which is in about a week or so, week and a half. So I want to thank you all for watching. Happy writing.